Sometimes as parents, there's this moment where the clouds part and your kid sets you up for the moment you've been waiting for. A moment, especially of their teenage years when they've been annoyed by you, shutting down when they're around you, not wanting to talk to you very much, where they come to you and they say, Mom, Dad, what do you think I should do? Give me your advice. Whether that's which college to pick, which major to select, which career, which job, that sort of thing. And that happened to me recently, and I realized I kind of fumbled, which is ironic because I run the U School. This is what I do professionally. Those of you listening probably don't spend your days like I do, reading and researching and spending my time in real life conversations with people about discerning their future. So how much more embarrassing is it for me that I kind of blow it? And I've had that opportunity a few times over the years. So I'm using this opportunity to really channel my thoughts, my experiences, everything I've read, researched, and learned about working with your kids and other people's kids, and try to apply it to my own parenting. I don't want that for you. So what we're walking through is a series of perspectives that will equip you to be more effective when you have that opportunity to talk to your kid about what they ought to do with their life, because ultimately it is their life. And although our success is intimately linked to them, to their success, they need to choose it, which is the operating word in U School. It's you. You as a parent need to help your kid figure themselves out. So the series is helping you guide your kid to their good life. And in this episode and an article that accompanies this, we're going to get into what I think is maybe the most foundational ingredient that is most often missed. I'd say almost always missed, but is critical to have the right conversation when we get to this major, that major, this job, that job, this career opportunity, that career opportunity. And ultimately what we're going to talk about is perspective about work, philosophy, point of view. What is work for? What is work all about? So you're going to want to take notes in this episode because we're going to get reflective first, get very practical, and then ultimately aspirational as we walk through this. So our kids, here's the fundamental premise. Our kids are learning about work from you and me. My kids learn about what work is all about. Is work good? Is work bad? They learn it all from me. They learn it all from their parents. How do I know that? Because I did too. You absorb it from your parents. And there are three particular ways that are probably unconscious to you, to us, that our kids are actually constantly taking metaphorical notes. They're absorbing your perspective about work. The first one is the phrases, the language that you use to talk about work. And we often have them, these repeated phrases that we've used hundreds of times, countless times, without even realizing it, probably just to fill in the gap and having small talk. They'll listen to you talk about a neighbor. Hey, got any big plans? Just running the rat race. Anything new? What's going on? It's called work for a reason. You see them in the morning. Time to go clock in for the man. A Wednesday. Just counting down until the weekend. So these phrases are, of course, conversational filler, ways to make small talk, but they actually reveal deeper beliefs about what work is all about. You probably can answer this question. What did your parents say about work? What were the constant, continuous phrases that you heard that you just like, oh, okay, as I'm making categories about my life, is work this or is work that? And they're going to absorb it from the things that you say. So the first one is the phrases that we use. The second one is the characters in our work story. Our kids are listening all the time, of course. And chances are, whatever you do is a bit mysterious to your kids. The fact that you go to an office, and maybe they've been there, but they don't really know what happens in the office. You go to meetings, you're on phone calls, you're in Zoom meetings, you have appointments, you have presentations, emails. You have these sorts of abstract, invisible things to work, unless you're like a very physical I am a plumber. I am a Marine. Like, to your kids, chances are what you do for work is pretty invisible. It's abstract. And so when they think of work, what is it? It's probably the characters in your work story, because those are probably the people that you talk about, the things that you complain about, the things that you mention about your workday. I remember growing up, and when my dad would come home from work after a long day, I would sit there, my sister would, and I would sit there, and we would listen to my mom ask my dad questions about the workday. And it was just a cast of characters, people's names, Carolyn, Tom. Like, we just knew who these people sort of were. We'd see them every year or two at a holiday party or running into them at a car wash. But by and large, we would just hear these names, and it'd be this sort of characteristic perspective that we would get about these people. And that would be what work is. Chances are you don't get home, and when your kids listen to you talk about the workday, you're probably not talking about, I saw my friend Caleb today that I work with, and I just love how prepared he is. I love how strategic minded he is. They probably don't hear those sorts of things. They're probably hear like, oh my gosh, I had to freaking meet with Janice again, or Bill. They hear about the way we complain, judge, criticize, condemn these horrible people that we have to work with oftentimes. And that shapes and forms how they think about work. So phrases, characters, and then your general feelings and attitudes towards it, which they can sense on an intuitive level. I got these messages, I think, growing up, mixed messages. On one hand, I had both of my grandfathers, from what I remember, both retired early. Okay, so work is something that you try to get out of as soon as possible. That's a message. I remember overhearing two old guys at a bagel shop probably 15 years ago have a conversation as I was waiting for my bagel. And one of the old guys says, I'm never going to retire. Why would I retire from something that I love? And I was like, oh, that's a totally different message about work and attitude and feelings towards it. I remember growing up, even to this day, if you talk to one of my parents about how the day is, and that parent will say, I got nothing accomplished today. Just, totally lazy bag of bones. And I'm worthless today. And okay, those are good people are constantly working and busy. And I think what that translated to me was, for many years into my own career, I would feel the pressure to constantly work. If I was taking a break, even a weekend, even a vacation day, I'm still hearing the voice of good people are always working. Bad people are lazy. Good people. And the problem was, much of my work involved critical thinking, which required space and time to reflect. So these feelings and attitudes that we get from our parents, we do the same thing to our kids. And this is just a really good opportunity to take a step back and figure that out. Ask your kids, what do you think my attitudes are towards work? Not too long ago, I asked one of my kids, when you think about work, not what are you going to do, but what do you think about it? The fact that after school is over, you're going to be working for a lot of your life. And my kids said, I just hope it's not that stressful. And before I could respond, it hit me. There is an embedded, implicit, unconscious attitude and perspective that this kid is carrying about work. I just hope it's not that stressful. It's like a lowest common denominator, path of less resistance. And what I realized was I had not been successful in communicating to my kids that I love work. I love work. I love it. I love working. I love the problems I get to solve, the people I get to work with. I love the difference I get to make. I love how challenging it is. I love constantly learning new things, being in uncomfortable situations. I love almost every aspect of my work. And I feel incredibly privileged that's true. I know most people would not say that. How much more so do I feel embarrassed or ashamed that I haven't communicated those positive feelings and attitudes? So let me ask you this question. What do you hope your kids think about work someday? Are they going to see it as this like means to an end, something that you have to do? Or are they going to see it as something that is an opportunity for them to step into who they are and make a difference and impact in the world? So here are 3 simple ways you can guide your kids. Remember, ultimately, it's to their good life. And in this particular conversation, to help you guide your kids towards what I would call a redemptive perspective about work that will set them up. That's the foundation for when you get to, is it this career, that career, which path to take? And the first one is this: be honest with them. Talk more out loud about how challenging work can be. There are people that drive you nuts. You might have been overlooked for promotions. Maybe you didn't get a chance to get the education or the skills or the certification that you need, or maybe your business suffered from competition or the markets. Be honest with them about the challenges, but also look for ways and chances to share about the stuff that you love about your work. Tell them funny stories about the people that you work with that you love and you appreciate, the ways in which your work makes a difference in people's lives. Share with them what you're grateful for that day, even when it's challenging, even when it's frustrating, even when you're around difficult people all the time. So that's the first part, is get honest with them, but tell them the full story. Second, look for ways to expose them to your work. I can still remember a few times going into my dad's office on a weekend, and my sister and I remember making photocopies of our hands and other parts, and the place just felt important. It almost felt sacred. Like, this is where my dad goes all day. There are people here who respect him and admire him. He's important. He's doing important things. And even as I not just went to his office, I got to listen in to remember the old car phones? There was like a box inside the car, and I would listen in sometimes to his business work calls. He also invited me so many times to sporting events with clients or colleagues or golf outings. And I got to listen in to how people did work. And I just overall got this perspective that work is a good thing. Work is a joy. Never got the sense that work was a bad thing. So expose them to your work. And the third part, which is kind of builds off the last one, is point to role models about work that you admire, people that are aspirational to you. Maybe you don't have a real impressive track record. Maybe you don't want your kids to follow in your footsteps. Maybe you have a really negative attitude about work, but that doesn't mean that you can't offer to your kids a different perspective. So even if maybe you love what you do, you're proud of it, your kids, I think, still need to be exposed to other examples of people who love their work. So who are the people you admire, the people you look up to? Maybe you read a biography about someone sometime. Maybe you watched a documentary. Maybe you read an article. If there are people you don't know, or maybe there are people that you do know, talk about those people. If you have the opportunity, introduce your kids to those people. Let your kids know that they have options for how they think about their work, both negative and positive. It is up to them to decide. And whatever way they choose in terms of their perspective will determine much about their experience for a significant part of their lives. If it's 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, it's a huge part of their lives. So there are a number of perspectives, options to kind of parse these out. Don't leave it to chance. I'm going to include it in the show notes and also link an article that goes deeper into this so that you could even use this as a worksheet with your kids. You could print it out. Options like work is something I just have to do. It's a means to an end. Or work is something I get to do. It's a gift to me. It gives me a chance to express my values. Work is something that enables me to do and provide for the people that I care about and do the things that I love outside of work. Work is a grind. It's the worst part of my life. These are all commonly held perspectives. And there's a handful more. And what's helpful, as we've worked with countless teenagers, again, it's hard to do it for myself, which is why I'm trying to learn this series, but it is something that every single kid needs, the opportunity to reflect on their perspective so that they have everything that they need to choose their best life, to build their best life, which includes their best career path. They might figure it out on their own, but if you're reading this, I know you're the kind of person, or watching this, you're the kind of person that doesn't want to leave this to chance. You want to make sure your kids have every opportunity to build their best life. So do this reflection. Have the conversations with your kids. Expose them to people that you admire. Bring them into your world more, both the positive and the negative, and guide them to reflect and make choices about their point of view, their perspective that can lead to their flourishing.